Welcome to Modern Home Mastermind with Bespoke Brokers. I'm Shauna Glazier, designated broker and owner.
And I'm Brittany Williamson, associate broker. Shauna and I are bespoke real estate, but we're also your guides to modern luxury across the entire state of Arizona.
Each week, we chat with masterminds shaping the modern spaces. Do you want to get a behind-the-scenes look at your design build team's processes? Well, open communication and teamwork will lead you to that successful project.
From architects to builders, designers, and more, let's explore the art of modern living together.
All right. Welcome back, listeners. Have you ever met a female architect? Well, we have one today, and she's going to be joining us on our podcast.
Yes, we are thrilled to welcome Michele Grace Hottel, the founder of MGHarchitect. Michele leads a practice that works across California and Arizona, designing everything from home additions to ADUs, dream residences, and community spaces. Her work is defined by tailoring each project to the people and place it serves, whether that's a desert retreat, a mountain getaway, or a vibrant neighborhood center. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Of course. We are, it's always refreshing to meet a woman architect. We're so excited to have you here. All right, let's get started. I wonder if you can share maybe your first memory or experience, something that captivated you by the architecture or design, or maybe the thing that just like drew you into the field of architecture.
I've always, of course, probably my first recollections of architecture were, the house that I lived in. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so it was one of the suburbs outside of there. And, it was an old house, like maybe built in 1905. And there were these, you kind of went into this, even though it was like rather modest house, you still had like this entry hall with wood floors, and then these stairs that kind of went up, and then we had the main stairs from the entry, and then you had stairs that went back down into the kitchen, and then up into the bedrooms. And my brother and I used to always say, and then there was a stained glass window kind of above the stairs. And so those would be kind of more of the private spaces, and then the public spaces. Growing up in Pittsburgh, you've got the Carnegie Museum of Art, and Buell Planetarium, and Phipps Conservatory, and those are kind of all of the kind of grander spaces. And I can remember walking into the Carnegie Museum, and then there's just that skylight that's up above, and then all of the marble sculptures that are all around that entry space, which I guess now they've cleared out. Somebody told me, they cleared those all out of there. So,
yeah, that's a bummer.
I know. I don't know what they're doing with it. Maybe they're transitioning to something else. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting that it was your own house that was, one of the things that kind of drew you in.
Yeah, and then one of the, and I don't remember, but then there's photographs that kind of, they had given me this dollhouse that was actually my mom's dollhouse, and I think I was just more kind of interested in like the furniture in the rooms inside rather than like not playing out like little, doll scenarios or those things.
Yeah, you're like, I'll take the dollhouse and not the dolls.
Yeah, it was like Legos, and then, other kind of like building. My mom had these set, I guess they had them in the 50s, and they were these little kind of plastic white masonry blocks. And then they had windows and doors you could kind of put in them, which were a lot easier than Legos, because Legos back then, they didn't have all of the different parts.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very different now.
So, yeah.
That's interesting. Do you go back to Pennsylvania often?
No, because we moved, like my mom and my stepdad, our whole family moved to the West Coast in 81. And so I don't really have that many, family members left back there. So, yeah, I've been out in California since I was 17.
Okay. Yeah, I just took my first trip out to Pennsylvania this summer with my son. So I got to tour some Frank Lloyd Wright structures out there.
Yeah. And so I had never gone. I had gone to Ohiopyle. You guys went to Ohiopyle.
Yeah.
I had gone there, but for some reason, like my parents never took me to Falling Water, which was kind of really strange.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until I went back for a wedding when my daughter was about a year old that I actually went to see Falling Water.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
And then a couple years later, or maybe 5 or 6 years later, Kentuck Knob.
Which is, one of my favorite properties of all time.
Yeah.
That was a treat to see.
Well, your firm is known for kind of designing for people where they are. How does that geographic flexibility, influence your design? I know that you've done a lot in California. Now you're starting to come over here to Arizona.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, California and Arizona, because of the, requirements with the, with the sun and the heat, those are kind of similar. And then California has some pretty strict Title 24 energy requirements. And so, we're always used to, watching the U factor, solar heat gain coefficient, insulation, overhangs, a lot of the things that we have, over here in Arizona also. And then living, I think if you've lived on the East Coast and you've had that weather, then you kind of know like how things are, it's more introspective instead of, like on the West Coast, I think that we look out to nature more. And so more of the views are outside where, when I was talking about the museum, everything is inward focused. They have a huge skylight, but everything's inward focused with that. More of the houses are inward focused.
Is that just to survive the winters? Is that right?
Yeah. And then, if you've got kids and you can't go outside, right, you need more space. I mean, a lot of times here, in California, there's the homes are smaller typically because everybody, and then there's more of that, that indoor outdoor
Yes.
Influence. And then I also lived in Copenhagen for a year. So, again, that was like all about the weather. And I was there for more of the coldest months,
Yeah. Huh, interesting. All right. So you do everything from mixed use to ADUs, residential, commercial, community. What type of projects, what's your favorite type of project? And then also I'd love to dive into a few of the projects that you're working on right now, and some past projects as well. So
so I want to embark into design build. And so I'm really excited about that. When I did a podcast with Jonathan Siegel, he's kind of like, now's the time for architects to be, developers, be their own developers. And he's like, just start with your home. And I said, okay, I added onto my house. And I said, but I'd really rather do something that is totally new. And, I'm hoping to do that in Arizona.
good. Yeah. All right. And what about some of your projects here?
So this is the Sunset Cliffs house. And I did this right kind of when I was getting back into, architecture full time. I started my practice in '94 when I gave birth to my daughter. And then this was right after my youngest was about 3 or 4 years old. And it was an existing mid-century modern home. And there's a 180-degree view of the ocean. And I don't have a before shot, but it was kind of, they had added, the previous owners had added onto the house, and there were just like 2 small windows looking out onto this view. And so he said, the new owner said, like, I just want everything like taken, I just want glass everywhere. And so from the top to the bottom of the site is 40 feet. There's 40-foot difference there. And so again, this is like on a hillside. And so we had to do a moment frame system to have all that glass. And this is before there were like these huge like companies, window and door companies that had these kind of fixed. Right? So this is all storefront glass, and then we incorporated sliding glass doors in there, and then you can kind of see the steel.
So you had to reach out to commercial vendors at the time that you did this because it really wasn't a thing.
There wasn't.
And now
so
it has become such a big thing, especially here.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, there's more companies, like Western Door and Window.
Awake, right?
Yeah, and Awake. Yeah, yeah, all of those companies. Yeah.
And this is in Coronado, correct?
This one is in Point Loma.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's right next door to Point Loma Nazarene University.
Isn't that so funny how the original house was in the 60s, you said, or what year?
Yeah, it was a mid-century modern house, and then we added on to it, and then it kind of was just hanging out without any, there was just like a basement space underneath, so we opened up that basement space under there. Also,
I think it's interesting
like 2 stories
how you say that there were just 2 windows looking out at the ocean, and we experienced that here in Arizona for us, our ocean views is the Camelback Mountain. People love the Camelback. It's our iconic ocean view. And these older homes built in the 60s might just have a tiny cutout window, and you have to tear them down.
A giant fireplace, like
or
the
a
home
giant,
that you were
like,
living
we had
in.
to tear down a beautiful fireplace, but it was smack dab in the middle of the view of Camelback Mountain. So it's funny, these older homes, they have to come down, or the walls have to come down to put glass to capture the oceanfront view or Camelback, if you will.
Yeah. Though, I mean, a lot of mid-century modern, and case study houses, they were all about the view, but for some reason, I think that they had added on to this house after this house. So it was like there was a remodel addition in between, the original and mine. And so that one, it was kind of, I mean, it was the primary suite up there, but there were just small windows in it.
Yeah, out of all places where you want the views, you want to wake up and see the ocean.
And the rest of the rest of the living area that is on like the left side, I mean, that was open with large rays, but then the part that kind of was cantilevering out over the hillside was totally covered. Yeah, totally covered up with two small windows.
All right. And I think, did you have a project in here that said 911 somewhere?
Yes.
I want you to go back into the story of this one. It's so entertaining.
This is the 911 9th Street house. And I laugh because it's the house that had all of the red flags, and I still went forward with it. And it's really, like, I really like the way that the house was. The clients were great. The wife was an attorney, so I was kind of like
Nervous.
nervous about that.
We feel the same way when we have attorney clients.
And I mean, she did have a lot of questions, and then the first email that I got was like 3 pages long, and I was like, oh boy, with all of these questions on it. It was a tricky site. I mean, she had actually bought it from this realtor friend for her and she thought that they were going to be able to do a lot more than what they could with it. So they really couldn't increase the height. They couldn't increase the density. They could only increase it by like 110 square feet.
Was this like an old bungalow or?
Yes, it was an old bungalow, but somebody had done a remodel and just totally had ripped all of the old wood windows out. The staircase was still running up the middle, but in a different orientation than it is now. And then there were just a couple of windows on the front that were still existing, but they had added on on the left side and things. And so these clients also had an art collection. And so I took out the corners of the rooms so that there'd be room for their art, because a lot of their pieces are fairly large, and so that way they could still have the windows on the corners and then the art in the center.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and so they kind of gave me a list of all of the pieces that I had, and so we were kind of designing around that also.
That's great. Great.
So this house is only 1,440 square feet.
It's
Oh my
tiny.
goodness.
Yeah.
I will say that is one thing that a lot of our clients, or when we show some of these modern properties that are all glass, people that have art are like, where am I going to put my art? So to kind of take that into consideration when you're planning it.
Yeah. Yeah. And they had been together since high school, and so they had like all of these different pieces, some much more valuable than the others. The people that bought this house, they just said, like, yeah, we want to buy it with all the furniture in it, and we want the art collection too. And I asked the client, I said, you're not going to get on the art collection. He's like, no, I don't think they realize like how valuable the collection was. But, yes. And so we created niches in different parts of the house to showcase these different sculptures that they had also.
Beautiful. And then I think you're doing something currently in Paradise Valley right now, right? Something local. Let's see if we can jump to that one. Can you tell us a little bit about this one? So what is that view we're looking at? Is that the end of Camelback Mountain?
Yes.
Where are we at? Okay.
Yeah.
So are we on Mummy Mountain?
Would we be? We're looking, and so this is a private community in Paradise Valley. It's not that more large of a community. And then we're looking at the back of Camelback Mountain. And of course, we're up a hill because I obviously don't do any projects that aren't on hillsides. But and that's the rendering.
Nice. All right. How far along are you guys on this one?
I know that the windows and doors are in. I just don't have any. I don't have any current photos of it.
How big is it?
We're almost done. It's about 3,500, 4,000.
Just pretty small for Paradise Valley.
Yeah.
It's on an acre.
Yes. Yeah.
And
yeah.
is this a design build for a client and end user, or is this going to be a spec?
Yeah, there was a client. It's not spec. Okay. Yeah, there was a client. Yeah, it's the Bishop residence.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
and so obviously the windows are facing out towards the view.
Looks beautiful. We'll have to go check it out.
Yeah,
Let us know when you get it closer to completion for sure.
Yeah.
So we know just kind of from talking to you that collaboration is a big part of your business. Can you walk us through like meeting with a client kind of from start to finish and how your process goes with the clients?
Okay. Yeah. I have a website, but most of my clients are referrals from, either consultants or other clients. And so I'll speak to them on the phone first, to just kind of like give them, some of my procedures. And then I like to meet with them in person at the site and kind of go over some of the other things. And then I do an architectural fees proposal for them. And then we'll move forward for schematic design. And so a lot of times people will either have images that that they've collected, that they want to show me. Sometimes if it's an existing home, they'll want to kind of stay with that existing style of the home rather than totally go. Though there's people that, they kind of just give me free reign, like the 911 9th Street house. They said, yeah, just do whatever you want. These 3 different materials, kind of like what do you want to do? And then this plan, obviously it's a 40 by 50 lot, so we were kind of limited by that. And then so sometimes it'll be an existing traditional home, but they want a modern addition or something. Like I'm doing another project right now where it's an existing home that was probably built in like 1910, 1920. And we're doing 2 modern additions on the front and the back of the house. And it's going to be
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of a large window that will face, we raised the addition up so that, and then we have this huge tilt window door, and that's going to frame the view to the ocean.
So you have to kind of meld those 2 together.
Yeah,
this older style.
And
Which you see it out here a lot with like the adobe bricks and stuff like that, and then kind of a modern spin on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like if people, I think that's what's going to start happening here because you kind of run out of space, or if people want to live in the same neighborhood, they want to live in the same neighborhood, but like, instead of buying another house, they want to add on or remodel their existing house.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, and then I do schematic design, and then after schematic design, I like to get preliminary estimates to see that people are in line with their budget.
Good.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you at what point. So do you usually pull in a builder, or do your clients usually come with a builder? How does that usually work?
They can bring a contractor if they've used one before, and then I also have a couple that I recommend. But I'm fine like working with anybody's contractor. It's just it's fine. I don't see any. I haven't had any problems with that.
Good thing to pull them in early. Get some good estimates.
Yes,
Well, it sounds like if you want to
do.
do the design build, that's going to be you eventually that you're recommending.
Yeah.
Keep it in-house, right?
Yeah. And even like kind of like a square footage basis, people are like, oh, we want to do it for this much per square foot. And I said, okay, it's like that maybe could be an average, but, high ticket items, kitchens, bathrooms, like a high, nicer finishes, more expensive finishes isn't going to be just like
Yeah, are you framing or rammed earth walls?
Right.
Exactly. Yes,
Right.
any of that. And then I'm involved. I do a lot of the interiors, and then I'm involved in the construction observation process. So it's like if I'm there, like working, with the contractor. Like I have a contractor that does a lot of the tile work himself, and so I can just like lay out the tile work for him, and we'll work on different details because. We'll say like, okay, well, what do you want to do in this area? Like, how is this going to work? And and then that kind of gives you kind of like a a good, a good gauge of like how different things are going to come together.
Yes, keeps it very cohesive when you can have a hand in that stuff.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're very involved throughout the whole process.
Yes, exactly.
Well, and not only that, but Michele, you have a podcast too. Would love to talk about your podcast.
Okay.
It's called I've Never Met a Woman Architect Before.
Yes.
Tell us a little more about that.
So I started a blog in 2012, and it was called "I've Never Met a Woman Architect Before," and I did not write anything. I started it, did the made the site and everything. Didn't write in it until 2 years later, when I had seen some posts from Bob Borson, who's Life of an Architect, and it was like the day in the life of an architect, and there were only like a couple women that had posted on it, and I said it's like why didn't you talk about this, or why didn't you talk about this or something? But I had commented with a link, and I guess when you comment with a link, it automatically like sends an alert to him or something, and so then he goes, well, why don't you write for our blog group, which is called like #Architalks. And then from that, it was in 2018, I decided, when it was like the AIA conference in New York, I was like, I think I'm going to interview people when I go there. And I wanted them to be kind of like short interviews that people could listen to on their way to, to work, on their commute or something. So they were only about 15 minutes long. Then COVID happened. Lot longer. They became an hour. And so I just, I ask my basic questions, to architects and non-architects that work with architects. And the reason why I've never met a woman architect before is that I would tell people that I was an architect, and they would say like, oh, I've never met a woman architect before.
It is a rare breed in that field, for sure. We've interviewed one so far.
I know, Patricia.
Right? Yes.
Yeah, it is.
We're hoping to get a few more.
And we're excited to be on your podcast later.
Yes,
so thank you for inviting.
Exactly. And then, there's other women architects that we're putting together a publication, the AWA.
I was just going to ask you about
Arizona Women Architects. And so there are a lot of different architects that are going to be in that group in the publication. And so
we're going to use that as a reference for who to interview next.
For sure, for sure.
Exactly.
Well, do you want to tell us more about that publication?
It's a publication. It's similar to the ARA, the Arizona Residential Architects. It's still kind of being coordinated by Nick Santakis, but the person that's kind of coordinating our publication is Joanne McBride, and she's with Tammin and Rose, also another woman architect, and so we're looking for industry sponsors so that they can put their ads in the publication. And so each of the architects will have their own page to talk about their work or anything that they want to write about, maybe artwork that they do, sketches, things like that. And
good. Yeah. How exciting.
Yeah, that should be interesting. Yeah. Keep us posted on that.
Yeah.
All right. We have a couple rapid fire questions for you. All right. Favorite piece of architecture?
Oh my gosh. I have a thing, like I like Frank Lloyd Wright, but then I like so many other things because I really only kind of came to Frank Lloyd Wright stuff, probably the last 30 years. Any like Julia Morgan was actually, one of my mentors and employers kind of said like, oh, did you realize that Julia Morgan was more prolific than Frank Lloyd Wright in a shorter amount of time because she didn't live as long. Yeah, and so she did, Hearst Castle. She worked with Phoebe Hearst, William Randolph Hearst. She did a Silomar that is. That's in Monterey, the Monterey area. It's a state park, and so she did all those. So.
I love it that you picked a female. So my next question was architect or designer who has influenced you the most?
Oh, so now we might have to go back to an actual piece of architecture.
Oh, actual piece of architecture. Oh my gosh. I volunteer at Taliesin West, and there are so many things at Taliesin West. I mean, it just kind of its evolution and kind of the different learning, learning and the learning processes that they did while they were building all of those things. And I have yet to go on the shelter tour. So I really want to go on the shelter tour, but otherwise I'm there. And then just like the outreach to the community, I mean, I volunteer with the kids, during, and I'm just there. I'm there. I'm not teaching the class. I'm just kind of a person there, but I think it's good
Telling people not to touch certain things and where they're not allowed to go.
with their projects. So I'm helping them with the projects that they have. And like Girl Scouts have a program there to earn a badge, and so I've like helped out with the Girl Scouts there, and
I love it.
Yeah, we're in the air-conditioned space. The kids are allowed to be in the
Yeah,
air-conditioned
we took our kids to tour that, and it was really special. And I've been there for like the sunset and sips and different. It is really
So I volunteered for sunset.
special place.
I did the shelter. I got to do the shelter tour years ago when we first moved here. My mom is a huge Frank Lloyd Wright fan, and so when they came out, we did everything, and so it was very neat.
All right, favorite way to recharge outside of work. What do you like to do? What's a hobby?
Oh my gosh. I do like nature. I mean, and people, when I say that, like, oh, I like to camp, and they're kind of like, oh, what do you like to camp at the trailer? I'm like, no, like camp like in a tent.
Really?
Like, yeah. So people are like, they do not know that I had any experience, with tent camping or anything. And there used to be a bunch of us that were in LA that would go on these camping trips together. And the first time that we went, and one of my friends, he brings this up all the time, like, oh, you showed up for the camping trip and you had like beetle boots on and a suit jacket. It was like like late 80s, 90s, right? And I said, it was after work. Right? It was like we were leaving after work. And so that's why that wasn't what I wore the whole time when we were camping.
I brought a change of clothes.
Yeah. I brought a change of clothes. But then they were just really surprised, like, oh my gosh, she does know how to like pitch a tent and, cook over a campfire and thing. I said, yeah, I was a Girl Scout, for years. And, we always grew up camping and things. So, yeah.
Love it.
I just returned from a camping trip with 3 teenage girls.
So yes,
I love that. It was wonderful actually. When they put the tent up in the dark and had no problems with it. One of the girls started a fire, which I was very impressed with and a little scared of. But it was wonderful.
Oh
so
my gosh,
I love it. That's your answer. So dream location for a future project anywhere in the world.
Probably Italy or some desert island. Though people, I always think like, oh, like somewhere in the Caribbean or Virgin Islands, and then other architects say, oh my gosh, it is so difficult to do a project like that. It's just filled with a ton of problems. So probably. I don't know, Italy.
Probably safer with the weather in Italy.
Italy,
Yeah.
I know. I mean, I love Italy, so yeah, probably Italy.
All right. If you weren't an architect, what would you be doing?
Oh my gosh. I'd probably be an artist. I mean, I wanted to be an artist, and then I just didn't think that I'd be able to make any money at it. And then there was like one time during high school with our Girl Scout troop, they had this option to get training to be a forest ranger, and so I would kind of go. I would go on these trips, and then so I had art school on Saturdays, but sometimes I wouldn't be there, and then the teacher would be like, "Oh, is she in the woods again?"
Right.
So,
That's great.
yeah. So probably something like that. Yeah,
What kind of
painting
art? What kind of art do you
somewhere.
do? Paint? Is that what you do?
Painting, I really like watercolor. I draw, like I sketch. Like there's an October coming up, which is all ink. I'm going to be doing a podcast with that person, and it gives you a prompt every day. Yeah. But it's like I'd rather use pencil. I mean, pencil is like my favorite. Pencil on paper.
True architect.
I know.
Michele, thank you so much for being here. We are going to link all of your contact information in our show notes, but if you want to tell our listeners where they could find you, maybe give them your website.
At MGH Architect is my Instagram, and then Michele Grace Hottel Architect Facebook, and www.mgharchitect.com for my website.
Love it. All right.
Yeah. Oh, and YouTube channel.
All right, guys, check her out. And that's it for today's episode of Modern Home Mastermind. If you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe, like, and rate.
Yes, and thanks to our guest for sharing her insights with us, and to you for learning about everything modern with us.
And if you're ready to take the next step in your real estate journey, please reach out to us at Bespoke Real Estate. And until next time, keep living, loving everything modern.